Hi everyone, welcome to Unit 5, Mod 24. We are talking about sleep deprivation, sleep disorders, and dreams today. Here are your learning objectives and here are your vocab. So we know that sleep really matters, and there's lots of research to show us that in many different ways and reasons we need sleep. So our brain keeps count of our lack of sleep. So we cannot just have one good night's sleep after many nights of bad sleep and recover that time and just feel better. No, our body wants all that time we've lost. It wants to make that up. We know that we spend about 1/3 of our lives, or 25 years, in sleep. So that shows you that this is clearly something that, from an evolutionary standpoint, our bodies need. This is important for survival. If allowed to sleep, most adults will actually sleep 9 hours if uninterrupted. The US Navy and the National Institute of Health actually did an experiment where they asked participants voluntarily to stay in bed for 14 hours. They were experimenting about unrestricted sleep and what kind of an impact that had on an individual. And in the first few days, participants averaged 12 hours of sleep a night. And that was like that fixing of that sleep bank, which they estimated based on that time to be about 25 to 30 hours for these people. And then after that time, they kind of dialed back down to, naturally on their own, to 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep. And they reported better mood, more energy, better recall. Like, they just felt so much better after recovering that sleep debt they had lost. So there are links to sleep deprivation and depression in this large study where 15,500 12 to 18-year-olds were surveyed. They found that those who slept 5 or fewer hours a night had 71% higher risk for depression. So there is a strong link between sleep deprivation and depression. There is also a link between obesity and sleep deprivation. So there are 2 hormones that are linked to our appetite and appetite suppression. Ghrelin is the hunger arousing hormone, and leptin is the hunger satiating station. It's like the you're full, stop eating hormone that gets released. So ghrelin gets actually released in the stomach, and this, I want you to imagine, for a memory trick, a gremlin in your stomach who is growling because you are hungry. You know how your stomach growls when you are hungry? So think of a gremlin. Picture one in your stomach growling, and that is ghrelin, and that tells you you're hungry. So that actually ghrelin increases when you are not getting enough sleep, and leptin is suppressed. It also increases cortisol by not sleeping, which is a stress hormone, also linked to obesity. And your immune system is suppressed when you're not getting enough sleep. So you're at higher risk for catching a virus. And they also found that adults who sleep better tend to live longer than those who have chronic sleep deprivation issues. So we know it's linked to health in that way. It also slows reaction time and increases errors. So there are much more errors in driving. There are, especially with teenagers. So remember I said that teenagers have that biological clock that's set a little bit later than an adult or even a child. So their melatonin gets released a little bit later. So high schoolers, ironically, have to get up very early to go to school. And studies show there are many benefits to later school start times. It helps Students do better in school, they attend school better, and there are fewer accidents in the morning due to fatigue of high school students. So if you want a treatment, you want like a magic pill basically for helping your memory, so doing better at school, increasing your ability to concentrate in class or listen to your friend, or you want to just feel happier every day, you want to be able to control your appetite more or be sick less or be safe, then you should sleep. And at your age, you should be sleeping 9 to 10 hours a night. So insomnia is a sleep disorder. So now we're going to move to sleep disorders. This is when you have reoccurring problems of falling or staying asleep. So this happens to 1 in 10 adults about, and more so in older adults. And it has to be something that is persistent. It's not just like a one-night thing and then you have insomnia. The common quick fixes tend to be sleeping pills or alcohol. However, neither of which are really healthy for you. They just create this new dependency that your body is now expecting in order to go to sleep. And that neither of them are healthy and can lead to a tolerance issue. Narcolepsy is another sleep disorder you need to know. And this is where a person falls asleep suddenly, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But did you know they actually fall directly into REM sleep? It usually lasts less than 5 minutes, and it affects 1 in 2,000 people. And so they're finding that this neurotransmitter orexin has links to narcolepsy. So there's a genetic component, and they found this neurotransmitter was lacking in humans and dogs that had narcolepsy. So if they can create a medicine to increase orexin in the brain, potentially helping people with narcolepsy. Sleep apnea is another sleep disorder you need to know, and this is where the person repeatedly stops breathing throughout the night, and when they stop breathing, it causes them to kind of like snore or snort, and that wakes them up because they can't breathe, and so they wake up. Now, they don't remember waking up, and this can happen 70 times a night. It could happen 100 times a night. And so remember those sleep stages that we are all supposed to go through to not just get sleep, but get a good quality of sleep. Go to non-REM 1, 2, 3, up to 2, and get some REM. And the more you sleep, the more REM you get. Well, people with sleep apnea who keep waking up all night are not going through those stages in a normal way. So they're not getting quality sleep at all. So they could be in bed for a very long time and get out of bed and feel completely exhausted because their brain was not able to recover the way it should be able to from a good night's sleep. There's also a mask that's called a CPAP mask. That's the most common treatment for sleep apnea. And it kind of looks like that oxygen mask this man has on that is helping him breathe so he doesn't stop breathing at night, which is a health risk. So another sleep disorder, so this tends to occur with children. And night terrors are not nightmares. They happen in non-REM 3. Well, a nightmare would happen in REM, right? So this happens in non-REM 3, and it's always during the first 2 to 3 hours of sleep, generally around the same time, actually, of night. And the individual is highly aroused, so scared, screaming or loud, and they seem terrified. They really don't usually remember anything at all. But if they do, it's like some fleeting memory of it. Nightmares you might remember, but night terrors you do not tend to remember. Sleepwalking also tends to occur with children, and this occurs in non-REM 3. It also has a genetic component running in families, just like sleep talking, if you have any family members who do either. And it affects 20% of 3 to 12-year-olds. And those that have the longer, deeper non-REM 3 are more prone to sleepwalking. So dreams. So 8 in 10 of us have at least 8 in 10 dreams have at least one negative event or emotion. And most commonly, our dreams are actually just kind of rehashing things that have happened in previous days, especially things that we are thinking about a lot. We spend 6 years of our life in dreams. How crazy is that? And this is really like the craziest thing to think about, right? When we are asleep and unconscious, our brain is still on and is still aware of the world around us. That dual processing mind is still at work. So even though our unconscious is shut down or in dreamland, literally, our brain can take in like a cell phone ringing or smelling cookies downstairs. And so sometimes if you've ever incorporated a sound or a smell or a voice into your dreams, that's because your brain is still aware of those things even though you are asleep. Crazy. So Freud said that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious. So remember, Freud is all about the unconscious, and he looked at dreams as this thing that we could interpret and figure out those hidden unconscious thoughts that you were having that you have hidden from your conscious mind. So he broke the dream down and said that you have the storyline. So a purple monster is chasing you. That storyline, what you remember happening in your dream, is the manifest content. So that's how your wish was manifested. Okay? And then there is the latent content. And that is the hidden true meaning of your dream. So once interpreted, whatever that purple monster really is your psychology exam. And it's chasing you because you're afraid, whatever. So the purple monster would be the manifest content, and the latent content would be your fear of the AP exam. That was Freud saying that we have wish fulfillment. And there's also a theory that says that we are dreaming so that we can process information to sort out the day's events, or we are preserving our neural pathways. We're strengthening our neural pathways as we sleep. Some say that we are making sense of what is actually just neural static. Our brain is like, this is nonsense, and it tries to make sense of it because, as we've learned from previous units, our brain tries to make sense out of random. It doesn't like random. And last theory is cognitive development. So just the idea that as we are developing the way that we think, so think of a child learning to do the next way of problem solving or thinking about things. And we also do this in our dreams. Another reason why we know this time period of our sleep, this REM period where we're dreaming, is important is that we have REM rebound. And that is our tendency to have more time in REM after being sleep deprived. And mammals also have REM rebound. So we think there's something there with that information processing idea where we need to kind of sort out what we learned from today as like a survival method, because mammals need to learn what they didn't do that day that was helpful for their survival. Okay, so takeaways. Remember that sleep deprivation affects our mood, our appetite, our memory. It increases errors, weight, and it decreases our immune system. So get some sleep. Be familiar with the key characteristics of sleep disorder. Dream theories say that it's neural static or it's unconscious desires like Freud. It's cognitive development, neural pathways are being strengthened, and we're just processing our day's events. So those are all the dream theories. So be familiar with all of that, and we will talk more about this stuff in class.